There, it's Eamon Holmes here from Breakfast on GB News. We're not just on your television and your screens, you know.
We're on DAB plus digital radio, so you can listen to your favourite shows on the move.
If you've not yet listened to GB News Radio, it's very simple. We're on your radio player and TuneIn apps, on your smart speaker, phone or tablet, or online at gbnews.uk.
Take us with you wherever you go. GB News Radio.
You never have to miss a moment of the People's Channel.
Hello, I'm Simon on GB News for Headliners at 11 p.m, where I'll be joined by two of the country's top comedians as we take a look at tomorrow's newspapers tonight. If it's a big story, we'll be covering it, I guarantee, but we'll also have some fun along the way. That's GB News Headliners at 11 p.m. We won't put you to sleep, unlike some of the other paper review shows out there. So join us, 11 p.m, 7 nights a week.
I'm Mark White. As GB News Home and Security Editor, I cover those key issues that are so important to you. Our authorities, our communities doing all they can to combat violent crime. With the public services under unbearable strain, why are we still failing to control our borders? Defence, the first priority of any government, has been continually hollowed out. Can we trust our politicians to protect the armed forces? Join me, Mark White, on GB News.
Join me, Nana Akua, on Friday, Saturday and Sunday afternoons on GB News. Expect fiery debate and passionate discussion as me and my panel tackle some of the biggest topics hitting the headlines. It's a place for everyone's opinion. No one gets cancelled, but no one gets an easy ride.
Oh, she's on it today!
Be ready for conversations that are fierce, frank and, of course, fun. Every Friday, Saturday and Sunday afternoon from 4 p.m. on GB News.
Every morning from 6 o'clock, we'll wake you up with GB News Breakfast with all the stories you didn't know from the night before.
So whether it's serious news, entertainment or your own views from all over our great nation, we're here to kick off your day with a smile.
And the national media should be reflecting and reporting what's happening here.
You will notice the northwestern accents.
Whether you're with us on TV, radio or online, every morning, it's breakfast from 6 a.m. Hope you can join us.
Every Saturday at 2 o'clock, join me, Darren Grimes, for Real Britain. I'm not afraid to give you a platform and say it how it is.
Come on, make the case. Something like this is very, very important to people.
And we're always up for a laugh on this show.
God, honestly, you'd think there were no problems in the world.
Real Britain, every Saturday on GB News.
On the Mark Steyn Show, we cover the stories a lot of people are scared even to mention. The stuff that really matters with some of the world's biggest thinkers.
Now is his opportunity to kind of take the steering wheel of history.
Break away from the flop at 8 o'clock on GB News with the Mark Steyn Show.
We are GB News.
And we'd like to say thank you
To each and every one of you.
for helping our great nation
Find its voice.
We're absolutely everywhere.
Across England, Scotland,
Wales
And Northern Ireland. On TV.
On radio.
and online.
We're proud to be the People's Channel.
Britain's
News Channel.
On Mark Dolan tonight, we've got an awful lot to get through. The dark forces that want to close down GB News. Why? Because they don't want you to have a voice. More on that shortly. Also, is extreme political correctness killing comedy? Should companies do more to help employees with the cost of living crisis? Should the media be kinder in the way they portray plus-size people? And can you spend too much money on Christmas decorations? Reacting to those stories are my brilliant all-star panel. Meanwhile, Joe Biden has another senior moment, claiming that America has 54 states, and he gets the name of our new Prime Minister completely wrong. We'll get reaction live from Hollywood, California, and top reporter Kinsey Schofield. Plus, we've got Sunday's papers at 10:30 exactly. Now, millions are celebrating Halloween this weekend, so why don't you send in your Halloween pictures, maybe pictures of the house or family members or even pets. Mark at gbnews.uk. But straight after the news headlines, what does the future hold for GB News? Can the haters take us down? First up, the brilliant Tatiana Sanchez with the headlines.
Thank
Thank you, Mark. This is the latest from the GB Newsroom. The UK has accused Russia of making false claims of an epic scale after it blamed the Royal Navy for last month's Nord Stream gas explosions. The Ministry of Defence says Russia is trying to detract from its disastrous handling of the illegal invasion of Ukraine. Meanwhile, Russia has requested a UN Security Council meeting on Monday after claiming its fleet in Crimea was targeted by Ukrainian drones. Kyiv described it as a fictitious attack being used as false pretext to halt Black Sea grain exports. At least 146 people have been killed and over 100 injured during a stampede in South Korea. The victims were crushed when a huge crowd flooded a central district in the capital, Seoul, to celebrate Halloween. Video on social media showed dozens of people being treated for heart failure. Well, Prime Minister Rishi Sunak has tweeted saying all our thoughts are with those currently responding and all South Koreans at this very distressing time. The government has been urged to launch an urgent investigation following reports that Liz Truss's phone was hacked. The Daily Mail revealed the former Prime Minister's phone was hacked by agents suspected of working for the Russian president. The breach was discovered during the summer Tory leadership campaign when Ms Truss was Foreign Secretary. The downloaded messages reportedly included private exchanges with former Chancellor Kwasi Kwarteng criticising Boris Johnson. They're said to have included up to a year's worth of messages, some top secret, about Ukraine. A whistleblower has told GB News the government isn't acknowledging the true extent of a crisis at an asylum facility. The worker at the Manston military base in Kent claims violence, disease and attempts of self-harm are a daily occurrence. The processing centre is only supposed to hold asylum seekers for up to 24 hours before transferring them to longer-term accommodation. But many have allegedly been living there in unsuitable conditions for weeks. The head of the Royal Navy has ordered an investigation into what he's called abhorrent allegations of sexual assault and harassment in the submarine service. Admiral Sir Ben Key says the behaviour will not be tolerated and is not a true reflection of what service life should be. He says anyone who's found culpable will be held accountable regardless of their rank or status. And thousands of mothers have been demonstrating across the country demanding reforms to childcare. The Halloween-themed protest called the March of the Mummies is calling for urgent progress on women's rights. They say expensive childcare, along with poor maternity and paternity benefits, are pushing mothers out of the workforce and into poverty. Well, they want the government to increase funding for the sector. TV, online and DAB+ radio, this is GB News. Now it's back to Mark Dolan tonight.
Many thanks to Tatiana Sanchez, who returns in an hour's time. This programme tonight is dedicated to my producer, Tom Pollard, who's been going since 7 a.m. That is the GB News way. Welcome to Mark Dolan tonight. In the news agenda with my panel, is extreme political correctness killing comedy? Should companies do more to help employees with the cost of living crisis? Also, should the media be kinder in the way that they portray plus-size people? And can you spend too much money on Christmas decorations? Reacting to those stories and many more are my brilliant panel. Actor and television presenter Christopher Biggins. Actress, model and columnist Ashleen Horgan-Wallace. And sports journalist and broadcaster Aidan McGee. Meanwhile, Joe Biden has another senior moment, seemingly losing count of how many states there are in America, which is, by the way, the country he runs. Take a look.
And by the way, if they do, that means, not a joke, everybody, that's why we were defeated in 2018 when they tried to do it. We went to 54 states, to 54 states, to 54 states.
He's worse with numbers than Diane Abbott. He also got, I'm afraid, the name of our new Prime Minister wrong this week. Take a look.
We've got news. Rashid Sunak is now the Prime Minister.
Oh dear, oh dear. We'll get reaction live from Hollywood, California, and the Queen of US showbiz, royal and political reporting, Kinsey Schofield. Plus, we've got the papers at 10:30, and don't forget, it's the Sunday papers and lots of big stories currently playing out on the news wires. I want to hear from you throughout the show, mark at gbnews.uk. Millions are celebrating Halloween this weekend, so do send in your Halloween pictures. Maybe you've decorated your home, maybe you've worn an outfit, or perhaps you've dressed up the dog or cat. So send in your Halloween pics, mark at gbnews.uk. Now, this programme has a golden rule. We don't do boring, not on my watch. I just won't have it. So for the next 2 hours, big debates, big guests, and always big opinions. Let's start with this one. Now, the famous American psychologist Dale Carnegie, the founding father of self-help books, had a brilliant attitude to the criticism of others. If someone has a go at you, just repeat this expression in your mind over and over again. Nobody kicks a dead dog. Because nobody kicks a dead dog. If you're being attacked, undermined, or even cancelled, it's probably because you're a threat. So rather than be put out by the criticism of others or perturbed by a campaign to shut you up, be flattered, be emboldened, especially if you're annoying all of the right people. Which brings me to GB News. On air for a year and a bit, and yet in these few short months, thanks to you and your support and your belief in us, we've already changed the media landscape. Other news channels have already become influenced by our more combative, personality-led and good-humoured approach to current affairs. And another television news network has since entered the market, hot on our heels, doubtless mindful of our success. Imitation is the best form of flattery. We're trending on social media on an almost daily basis and achieve more column inches than you can shake a stick at. Many in the media can't stand us, but they can't stop talking about us either. The figures speak for themselves. We regularly catch Sky News in prime time, and I'm normally beating them around now. And our radio audience, it was revealed this week, has grown by over 40% in just 3 months. I've always had a great face for that medium. We're online, we're on TV, and we're on the wireless. And we've got over 500,000 subscribers on YouTube, recently passing LBC, who were established in 1973. And we constantly go viral on Twitter with monologues like My Big Opinion. Since we came on air, notwithstanding 1 or 2 technical issues, we've been through more sound engineers than Hugh Hefner's been through Playboy bunnies, the response has been overwhelmingly positive. You've called us balanced, a breath of fresh air, fearless and fun. We're still learning, we're still growing, but we have what American political strategists call the big mo, momentum. Which is why it's so surprising that in an article about this channel in the excellent Telegraph newspaper, it's been revealed that advertising agencies are conducting an effective boycott of the channel, egged on by online campaign groups who want to shut down debate in this country, seeking to starve GB News of the income it needs to stay on air. So why do these campaigns exist? Well, they're clearly politically motivated and bear no relation to the content we actually put out every day. How can I be so sure? Well, because as our boss points out in this Telegraph article, those campaigns to get us cancelled began before we even went on air. Because they thought that a channel that called out extreme political correctness, also known as wokeism, a channel that dared to be patriotic and say that Britain, for all its flaws, is a truly great country, should be strangled at birth. They hate the existence of a channel that looks at Brexit as a whole and considers its huge potential as well as its downsides. They hate a channel that, unlike others, draws attention to the illegal migration of up to 1,000 people a day in what is a humanitarian, economic and national security disaster. The haters, who claim to be against hate themselves, thought we could be smothered in our infancy. No such luck. GB News has been born and is now a rather feisty toddler and isn't going anywhere. And whilst a few media executives in Soho might be rather snooty about their brands advertising on the channel, in the end, they will come. With our viewing figures growing by the day, it's just a matter of time before great businesses like Tesco and Sainsbury's, IKEA, Ford, Boots the Chemist, Santander, you name it, they will come our way. If they care about you and want to reach out to you and want to sell their products to you, they will ignore the haters and put their money where their mouth is. Right now, though, there are dark forces at work who hate a diversity of views in the media and who want to stitch up the national conversation, something we saw during the run-up to Brexit and during the pandemic, and something that we will continue to see with issues around climate change. In the end here, we debate everything and widen the conversation to include everyone in this country. These practitioners of cancel culture are judging you. They look down on you, or worse, are ashamed of the opinions they perceive you to hold. You're bad people for not participating in the woke North London liberal groupthink. If that wasn't true, why are they so keen to close down GB News and deprive you of a voice? In the end, we're running our own race, folks. It's a marathon, not a sprint, and we will win. We are the people's channel, and it's people power that will see us to victory. Why are there powerful forces at work seeking to close down GB News? Let me know your thoughts. Mark at gbnews.uk is the email. Let's get the reaction now of my all-star panel, sports journalist and broadcaster Aidan McGee, legendary actor and television presenter Christopher Biggins, and actress, model and columnist Aisling Horgan-Wallace. Great to have all three of you with me. Aisling, let me start with you. Why are these campaign groups trying to reduce plurality within the media, a variety of voices and opinions?
I don't know, I can't speak for them, but it just annoys me so much. If freedom of speech is paramount for us to grow as a society, we need to understand everyone's opinions and views on things. So why you'd want to shut that down, I don't know.
No, and the whole point is that there are campaign groups arguing against lots of media outlets, including the Daily Mail, Aisling, who we've just heard reporting there in our news headlines with Tatiana Sanchez, have revealed in an amazing scoop that Liz Truss's phone may have been hacked by the Russians. I would call that in the public interest. This is a great bit of journalism from the Daily Mail. Again, an organisation that many of these woke campaigners would love to see the back of.
Right. So I don't quite understand what you mean there.
Well, in the end, they don't want the Daily Mail. They don't want GB News. They just want this little echo chamber. They want, as I mentioned, Aisling, to stitch up the national conversation in the way that most of the mainstream media did during COVID and during Brexit.
But that's what I mean. It's ridiculous. I don't understand why they're trying to do that.
No, well, I couldn't agree more. Let's speak now to legendary broadcaster who's never been cancelled. He's uncancelable. It is, of course, the wonderful, remarkable and brilliant Christopher Biggins. Biggins, what do you think about this story? Those who would like to see the back of GB News.
Jealousy. They're just jealous because it's a new company, new ideas, it's fun, it's good to listen to watch, and they don't like that. They don't like change. They want to keep... And probably money is passing underneath the counter, you know, to promote other things. And it's typical of what's going on at the moment. And it's really, really negative.
Yes, because my attitude, Christopher, is that we should have a broad church of opinion within the media. I think Fleet Street works really well. I think our newspapers are great because you've got the Telegraph on the right and you've got the Guardian on the left. You've got the Daily Mail and the Sun. You've got the Mirror, and I think it works brilliantly.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think we've got that. But television, you know, it's all these moguls who run it, who have so much money that they can promote whatever they want to do, and they can actually go against other companies who they are jealous of. And it's wrong because nowadays you're absolutely right. Television should be like the newspapers. We should have every possible opinion going out through the airwaves, and that's what is not happening, and it's very unfortunate.
Yeah, I mean, Aidan McGee, if God forbid GB News were forced to close down, you know, I'd get work somewhere else. I'm in talks with Babe Station. But
only because I nominated you.
Unfortunately, not behind the camera, sound man. But yeah, the issue is it's about plurality in the media. And when it comes to television and radio networks, as well as newspapers, the more the merrier, Aidan. But the direction of travel from the elite is that they want to close down debate and give viewers and listeners less choice.
The problem here, Mark, and it's been going on, it's been intensified over the last 5 years or so, but the left don't win elections anymore. They don't win national votes. So they have to infiltrate and infect the discourse of the public in a more sinister and surreptitious way. So, for example, we see it a lot in our public organisations, the public sector. Stop Funding Hate has actually got a £150,000 loan, I believe, if I've got it right, if their company accounts are correct, as a community interest company. So I don't really understand how they've explained to these organisations that they should borrow money for the sole aim of trying to shut down the Daily Mail and the GB News. Can you imagine if us three here got together and approached a funding organisation and said, I'd like to borrow 150 grand just because I don't like the BBC and I want to spread disinformation about it. It's absolutely absurd. So in terms of Stop Funding Hate, they're the protagonists here that we're talking about. They don't really represent anybody. This is a small band of people who, if they stood for a by-election tomorrow night in Northampton South, would be lucky to get 300 votes. I don't understand why they're carrying so much sway. In addition to that, there surely has to be some kind of libel law. Can you just go around saying, right, we don't like these people, they disagree with us, we disagree with them, therefore we're telling a third party, which is a commercial interest here as well, because obviously every company relies on advertising, we're telling them that they're not very good and we don't like them and you should dislike them and not deal with them or interact with them for a reason X, Y or Z. Now, I don't like that at all. I don't see... I think if you tried to do that on, I don't know, a big company like Shell or Esso or something like that, you'd be taken to court. I don't really understand why it's not happening here.
In the end, do you think, Aidan, that people power will win? People are voting with their DAB radios and with their remote controls as we speak. Is that the answer?
Yes, it is. And this channel has grown organically. I got involved in it near enough from the beginning. And, yeah,
I auditioned you.
Yeah, you did. Yeah, no, you said no. I had to go to someone else.
Well, first of all, can I just say no, never. First of all, it was a great audition. You look brilliant, with, you know, topless. But and I'm glad you let me do the medical. But listen, you made it.
I did. But look, the channel's grown organically. We can't even advertise on the old-school billboards because they're owned by a rival. Global own most of the billboards on the A3 and in the arterial roads going out of London, where some of our viewers, you might imagine, would live. It's been grown by word of mouth. It's people I tell about, oh, look, I'm on telly tonight, or there's something good tomorrow night on TV, have a look at that. And people tune in. They tell their friends. It's old school. It really is. That's how newspapers originally grew. They didn't really have the money to advertise when they launched in the early... Well, advertising wasn't really a thing at the start of the 20th century, end of the 19th century. So it's great that it's happening like that. I hope people power wins. Sooner or later, commercial forces drive it because they eventually say, well, actually, if they've got this many viewers, we need to be finding them. And at the moment, some of these companies, the way they're behaving, seem as more detached from reality than they've ever been.
Biggins, do you think this is an ideological stitch-up, as Aidan has suggested there, that, you know, there's this sort of perhaps North London metropolitan elite, this groupthink that says we've got to have lockdowns if there's a pandemic, that global warming means the world's going to blow up next Tuesday, that Brexit's been the worst thing that ever happened to this country? Is it an allergy to anything that challenges those views, which is doing for GB News at the moment and causing us such a headache?
I think Aidan's got a very good point, and I think it's right, what he says. And, you know, that's what's so worrying, that there are people out there who could sound out these things and put it about and change things for the worse. That's what is so unfortunate, I think.
Yes, Ashleen, the bottom line is that the viewers deserve choice. If you go online, you can get any website, any information at your disposal. And it's important that when you switch on your TV or your radio, that you have choice as well.
Absolutely. I think freedom of speech is a necessity, obviously. And for example, I'm glad that Elon Musk has now got Twitter. I think that everything's too controlled. And you know, people just want to live with blinkers on and don't want to hear the facts and opinions of others and the real facts of life. Like, let us speak and let us have our opinions is what I think.
Mark, we're fighting a really big battle here because we're on our own. We are modestly funded compared to some of the conglomerates and the big organisations that fund Sky, ITV, or even the BBC, which has 100 years of broadcasting history behind it. We're the outliers. I was in Birmingham on Thursday night helping a friend of mine with his book launch, and he asked me who I work for, and he went, you're the disruptors. And I thought that was great. I thought it was a great way of putting it, because that's what I consider this channel to be. We want to try and break things up. It's been static for 34 years. Sky News launched in 1989, I think it was. Now, I don't regard Sky News as a serious news organisation in some of their coverage now. Some of it is very good, but some of it just doesn't bear any resonance with any of the viewers, which is why their viewers are dropping and they're being beaten by an upstart like us.
Power to the people.
And we must be truthful. That's what we must be, truthful. And we must be varied. And we must take the whole of everything in our grasp and use it.
Absolutely.
Amen to that. I think you'll agree we're travelling business class with my panel tonight. Lots more to discuss with them later in the show. Of course, we've got the papers at 10:30. We'll also be asking whether political correctness has been destroying comedy. We'll debate that with comedy legend Andy Ford and our own Christopher Biggins. But next, in the big question, is Halloween a nuisance imported from America? Is it wrong to dress up your dog? Is it a vulgar affair? We'll discuss all things Halloween next.
Hello there, it's Eamon Holmes here from Breakfast on GB News. We're not just on your television and your screens, you know.
We're on DAB plus digital radio, so you can listen to your favourite shows on the move.
If you've not yet listened to GB News Radio, it's very simple. We're on your radio player and TuneIn apps, on your smart speaker, phone or tablet, or online at gbnews.uk.
Take us with you wherever you go. GB News Radio.
You never have to miss a moment of the People's Channel.
Hello, I'm Simon Evans. Join me on GB News for Headliners at 11 p.m, where I'll be joined by two of the country's top comedians as we take a look at tomorrow's newspapers tonight. If it's a big story, we'll be covering it, I guarantee, but we'll also have some fun along the way. That's GB News Headliners at 11 p.m. We won't put you to sleep, unlike some of the other paper review shows out there. So join us, 11 p.m, 7 nights a week.
I'm Mark White. As GB News Home and Security Editor, I cover those key issues that are so important to you. Our authorities, our communities doing all they can to combat violent crime. With the public services under unbearable strain, why are we still failing to control our borders? Defence, the first priority of any government, has been continually hollowed out. Can we trust our politicians to protect the armed forces? Join me, Mark White, on GB News.
Join me, Nana Akua, on Friday, Saturday and Sunday afternoons on GB News. Expect fiery debate and passionate discussion as me and my panel tackle some of the biggest topics hitting the headlines. It's a place for everyone's opinion. No one gets cancelled, but no one gets an easy ride.
Oh, she's on it today.
Be ready for conversations that are fierce, frank, and of course, fun every Friday, Saturday and Sunday afternoon from 4 p.m. on GB News.
Every morning from 6 o'clock, we'll wake you up with GB News Breakfast with all the stories you didn't know from the night before.
So whether it's serious news, entertainment, or your own views from all over our great nation, we're here to kick off your day with a smile.
And the national media should be reflecting and reporting what's happening here.
You will notice the northwestern accents.
Whether you're with us on TV, radio, or online, every morning, it's breakfast from 6 a.m. Hope you can join us.
Every Saturday at 2 o'clock, join me, Darren Grimes, for Real Britain. I'm not afraid to give you a platform and say it how it is.
Come on, make the case. Something like this is very, very important to people.
And we're always up for a laugh on this show.
God, honestly, you'd think there were no problems in the world.
Real Britain, every Saturday on GB News.
On the Mark Steyn Show, we cover the stories a lot of people are scared even to mention. The stuff that really matters with some of the world's biggest thinkers.
Now is his opportunity to kind of take the steering wheel of history.
Break away from the flock at 8 o'clock on GB News with the Mark Steyn Show.
We are GB News.
And we'd like to say thank you
to each and every one of you
for helping our great nation
find its voice.
We're absolutely everywhere.
Across England, Scotland,
Wales and Northern Ireland.
On TV,
on radio
and online.
We're proud to be
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
A big reaction to my big opinion monologue, the dark forces seeking to close down GB News. What's your reaction? mark@gbnews.uk is the email. Hundreds of emails have come in, truly humbled by the response. I'm looking for critical emails, by the way, because, you know, we like the truth, the good, the bad and the ugly. So if you're not happy with what we're doing, do drop me a line. But so far, it's been very positive. Steve says, hi, Mark. GB News is on our telly, 90% of our TV viewing. Keep up the great work. Very enjoyable watch. Marion, Mark, your show in particular is truly great viewing. Your monologues are always interesting. Keep going, Mark. Don't give in to them. I watch no other news channel but GB News, sometimes most of the day, and I find it's the only place that's in alignment with my views. It's a no-nonsense channel with lots of common-sense views on lots of subjects that affect our daily lives. Nicholas says, Mark, it's vital and in everyone's interest that GB News thrives. In this day and age, GB News is giving freedom and common sense a voice. I would gladly take out a subscription or a GB News Club membership if it would support the channel. I think a lot of people would. Well, Nick, thank you for your kind and generous words. What's important and what's brilliant is that you're tuning in your thousands. So if you like the show, if you like the channel, tell your friends, tell your family, and let's change the world together. Another couple of quick emails. Hi, Mark, says Richie. You and the rest of the GB News team are doing a brilliant job, a much-needed breath of fresh air compared to the stale old media. The others are just jealous and worried about losing viewers. And then how about this? Quite an interesting one from Richie, who says, hi, guys. I remember Bosch, the engineering company, decided to pull advertising. So Bosch don't want me to buy their products. I will no longer look at their products, but I'm a salesman, so will no longer recommend them as a company. AEG, Samsung and LG will have my recommendation. Keep up the good work. Rishi, thank you so much for that email. Bosch. OK, it's time for this. We're going to get to your Halloween photos in just a moment, but first it's time for the big question, in which we tackle a major news story of the day. And of course, a big topic is Halloween, because millions across the country this weekend are celebrating Halloween, which officially happens on Monday. But tonight, people are dressing up as vampires and ghouls with fangs and fake blood. And some are even dressing up their pets. So oh, look, there you go. We've got some pets. Look at that. Now, these are viewer pets that have come in, compiled by Dulcie. Aren't they just fantastic? That's Rambo, isn't it? Love it. Oh, there you go. Muck burglar. Brilliant stuff. We'll get to more of your viewer Halloween photos in just a moment. But is Halloween a wonderful celebration at a dark and gloomy time of the year, or a vulgar nuisance imported from America? To debate this, I'm delighted to welcome former police officer, army veteran and ex-leader of UKIP, Henry Bolton, the host of the brilliant Dadsnet podcast, Adam Parkinson, and digital marketing manager at animal rights group, Margarita Satkova. Margarita, let me start with you. Do you think that Halloween is essentially irritating, annoying, rather disruptive, especially for animals?
Well, I feel like if humans want to celebrate Halloween, if they want to dress up, if they want to do trick-or-treating, nothing should be stopping them. But please keep your cats and dogs out of it. Don't dress them up. And the costumes you've shown, they are not cute. They're potentially really dangerous. Every year we hear stories of animals choking on the costumes, of them being so stressed that they even run away, never to be seen again. And when you force your cat or dog into a costume, it's so stressful. It's so scary for them. And, some parts of the costume can be really, really bad. For example, the elastic bits that are too tight, that they cut off the blood circulation, or some bits that they can choke on. So it's a hazard that can turn your Halloween night into a real life nightmare.
Suppose, Margarita, that Halloween is very noisy as well. A lot of drunk people around, and a lot of naked flames, of course, candles, a few fireworks.
Yeah, this time of the year is definitely very stressful for cats, for dogs, and anyone who is watching us. I would recommend trying to do what you can to make it as comfortable for your dog as possible. My dog, for example, is now in a separate room. She's watching YouTube video with calming music, just to be louder than the fireworks. I'm keeping all the treats away from her, because some things that can be fun for humans or tasty for humans, like chocolate, raisins, some artificial sweeteners that you find in the treats, they're actually toxic for cats and dogs, and they can lead to really disastrous consequences. So instruct your children not to give them to animals. Instruct anyone you know never to take dogs trick-or-treating. Because as you rightfully said, it's so stressful, it's so confusing, and it's it's our responsibility to have cats and dogs just to look after them and keep them away from this celebration.
Adam Parkinson from the Dad's Net podcast. Is Halloween a nuisance imported from America?
Well, it's definitely imported from America. It's so much of a nuisance. I'm not so sure. It's something else to celebrate. It's something else to, spend time with your family, spend time with your children, do some crafts, dress up, have a bit of fun, have the sweets and stuff. I mean, I'm type 1 diabetic, so that, if we're going to import something from America, I'd prefer Thanksgiving, because it wouldn't mess with my blood sugars as much as sweet treats on Halloween. But I spoke to my little girl before and I just said, why do you love Halloween? And she just said, because I just love dressing up and I love having a party and and at the end of the day, for children, I just don't see the issue. All the points that, sorry, I forgot your name, made about the pet.
Margarita,
like the pizza.
Yeah, you got it.
Yeah.
Although I think she's got more
food
topics.
in the mind. I've not had tea yet. Points that Margarita made about pets and stuff. Obviously, the owner, the parent, that's at their discretion. They shouldn't, if they know their dog's uncomfortable or anything like that, that's for them to sort. At the end of the day, I don't condone putting pets in uncomfortable outfits, or I don't know any parent, especially anyone who tunes into Dad's Net and listens to Adam and Cockney John's Big Movie podcast, would put their children in tight costumes. I mean, that if that does happen, obviously, that's ridiculous parenting. But I just think, at the end of the day, after the last few years, if you've got a chance to have a good time and with your children, I don't see the harm.
However, you've got grown adults dressing up, which is never a good look, is it, Adam? People are getting drunk, ridiculous costumes, which are highly flammable. You've got naked flames everywhere, eating endless amounts of sweets. It's not healthy. It's basically almost like a public order concern, don't you think, Adam?
Well, that just sounds like a typical Tuesday night. No, I'm only kidding. Listen, it's one of those things, isn't it? It's about responsibility, and it doesn't matter what day of the week it is. You're going to have people doing stupid stuff. In terms of dressing up, I don't mind people going out to a party dressed up. Obviously, things like flames and all of that kind of stuff. It's all about being really careful. I mean, everyone goes to those courses when you're at primary school, secondary school, where you learn about fire, the dangers. Not everyone pays attention, but you'd like to think that common sense will prevail. And at the end of the day, when you're talking about like sweets and stuff, it doesn't. My daughter will have sweets. She just finds them anywhere. She's like a dog; she'll sniff them out. At the end of the day, one day a year where they might have a few extra, may stay up a little bit later watching. Like Hocus Pocus 2 came out the other day. What a nostalgia throwback that was. And, I just think it's a bit of fun. I think people just need, obviously to be sensible, to take responsibility, be adults, be parents, but just don't take it too seriously.
However, Adam, I want your daughter to have a brilliant time. I bet she's a smashing kid. But my problem is grown adults pretending they're kids.
Well, that's just a real poo-head thing to say, Mark. I'm joking. No, you know, I don't really celebrate it. I mean, I laugh because my parents, we never used to trick or treat or anything like that. They never did it with us. It has obviously grown massively over the past couple of years, you know, and it's all in the shops. And I think that's just people's craving to celebrate something, you know, because it's so far away from Christmas. You know, grown adults dressing up, if it's for an occasion or if it's with your children, like my daughter, I dressed up as, I mean, it's not very scary, but I dressed up as like CBeebies Hey Dougie last year because it was my son's favourite like character. And it was just a laugh and it was a bit of fun. And you know, my wife didn't mind it. She's a fan of Hey Dougie as well. But no, I just think, as long as you're responsible and you use common sense, like, you know, obviously I don't condone anyone dressing up in violent outfits to go and scare poor old people or anything like that. That's just pathetic behaviour. But obviously, if you're going out to a Halloween disco and you've got your, you know, I used to love going out dressed up. I remember, you know, back in the day, I've been dressed up as the Pink Panther. I've dressed up as Hulk Hogan. It's a bit of fun. I'm not massively into all the gory, you know, making yourself look like you've been in a brutal battle, but I just think, just find the fun because, like I said, over the past couple of years, how grim the times have been. You know, at the end of the day, you couldn't see your family or friends for near enough 2 years. If there's a day of the year where you can get dressed up and have a laugh with either your mates, your family, your children, I don't really see the issue as long as you do it sensibly.
Adam, I've got no doubt you've got the guns to pull off Hulk Hogan. Next year, I'm gonna go out as a brand new character, Poohead. I'm really going to own it. It's a badge of honour. But Henry Bolton, let's talk about it with your good self, because you're a former police officer and army veteran. What's your view about adults behaving badly?
There's no harm, as we've just heard, in having some fun. But the caveat was common sense. And sadly, all too often, people don't exercise common sense. They fire fireworks, not only that scare children and animals and wildlife. They entertain the children, of course, and the adults love it. But they also fire them at each other. They also cause criminal damage. And on Halloween, people drink a great deal more. And actually, the fact of the matter is, in some areas of the UK, it's rise by about 40% when there's on the night of Halloween. It's a huge burden on policing and the law and order and the public safety side of things, because people don't exercise common sense. That's the problem. Speaking personally now, Mark, I think the picture's coming in and out, but I'm out in the middle of the sticks and the internet's not so good. Hopefully you can hear me at least.
I thought that was a vampire thing.
I don't know, but Halloween scares the hell out of me. I don't know. But no, personally, it is an irritation. You know, to be quite honest, 10 o'clock at night, I don't want a dozen kids knocking on my door and saying trick or treat and actually starting to give you abuse if they don't get what they want, or if you don't give them enough sweets or something like that. That happens. And this is one of the reasons why there's an increase in criminality or criminal activity. It's not really crime. It might be a criminal offence to assault somebody. But, of course, then, there's an altercation and parents are in the background. They get involved. And sadly, that's the reality. If it was simply a case of innocent sort of dressing up and a bit of partying, children, earlier in the evening, I'm sure it wouldn't be a problem. But the adults get involved. The adults are the ones who drink too much. The adults are the ones who lose control and cross the line. And sadly, the children are often there and get in the way as well.
And how
so
serious?
Is it an irritation? Yes.
How serious can it get?
The other thing that's an irritation,
Mark, go on.
The other is all of this commercialisation. This is peddled by the supermarkets and everybody else. They put out all this cheap tat, and it is cheap tat. I mean, you'll pay a small fortune to dress your children up because it's there. The children see it. The children want it. So you pay a small fortune for it. Actually, then it goes in the bin because it probably lasts about 2 seconds anyway, only lasts that evening, or it's forgotten by the next year anyway. You buy something new. It's a commercial exercise. It's like Christmas. We started seeing things in the supermarkets in August for Christmas, mince pies and so on. I'm sorry, maybe I'm old school, but We don't need it. And I think a bit of fun, yes, but you make your own costume and do something for the children. It's, if you want to have some event, then throw a private party and have fun. But I'm all for having fun. But no, sorry. Yes, Mark, for me, it's an irritation imported from America, like so many other irritations are.
Henry, I see you're in fancy dress tonight. You're dressed up as the ex-leader of UKIP, which is terrifying.
Well, I nearly put my tweed on, Mark, but hey, I thought, no, it's a bit late in the evening.
Next time. Save the tweed for later when we've had a drink, Henry. Let me finally come to Margarita, and let's talk about older people, because lots of older people own pets. And even if they don't own pets, many old people are intimidated by drunk adults dressed as vampires, ringing the doorbell and hammering on the door knocker.
Well, I mean, yeah, I agree that this holiday can be stressful for many. It can be stressful for animals. It can be stressful for some people. It can be stressful for children. So, yeah, I do agree that people need to be sensible when they're celebrating the holiday. And, well, especially all the trick-or-treaters who come in through your door. Imagine how stressful it is for your dog just to, seeing people who look weird, who are strangers. My dog gets excited whenever I have a delivery or a postman coming to my door, but they don't come every half an hour. But for them, it's really important to be in a place where they are isolated from that, where they can't hear fireworks, where they're not annoyed by all the constant flow of people. And also it's really important to keep animals inside, there are so many pranksters. There are so many people who want to play some cruel tricks on animals, especially around Halloween. And as you said, there can be drunk people on the street and so on. So please keep your dogs and cats inside, and even not in the backyard, because sometimes it doesn't stop people. Keep them safe, keep them inside. If you have a dog, walk your dog early in the day so he or she is not scared by all the fireworks and crowds of people. Keep them far from all the treats. Don't dress them up. If you want to have fun your own way. Okay. There are so many ways to celebrate Halloween that don't actually cause stress to other people and other animals.
Yes, I'm keeping my pussy under wraps for the whole weekend. You may rest assured. Adam, I've only got a couple of seconds. How can people listen to your brilliant podcast?
Well, I'm lucky to be the host of two. If you head to 2mrpspodcast.com, that's the one I do with my brother. And then Adam and Cockney John's Big Movie Podcast, just wherever you have your podcasts.
Good man. Listen, brilliant stuff, Adam. Great to have you on the programme. I hope your daughter has a great time this weekend. Adam Parkinson, Margarita Sackova and Henry Bolton. Thanks one and all for a brilliant debate. Well, we want to now have a look at some of your brilliant Halloween photos. Margarita won't be happy because I've got a couple of viewer photos of dressed up animals. What are you going to do? So shoot me. So we'll get to all of your brilliant Halloween photos next. Looking forward to that. Also next, is political correctness killing comedy? We'll debate that with TV and comedy legend Christopher Biggins and the brilliant stand-up and panto star Andy Ford. See you in 2.
Weekday afternoons on GB News, we've got the whole of the UK covered. From 12 to 3, it's GB News Day with me, Mark Longhurst.
And me, Gloria Di Piero. You'll get the very latest on everything that's been going on across our great nation.
And from 3 till 6, watch out for GB News Live with me, Patrick Christys. I'm not here to mess around. With all the biggest topics and guests, you will always be up to date. GB News Day and GB News Live from 12 p.m.
Only on GB News.
The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
My name is Andrew Doyle.
Join me every Sunday evening at 7 p.m. for Free Speech Nation. This is a show where we address current affairs and news stories of the week with the help of two wonderful comedian panellists. I brought in comics because I want to give it a lighter edge, and also they work for less. See you there.
My name's Tom Harwood, and join me 9:30 a.m. every weekday for The Briefing, your one-stop shop for everything you need to know about what's going on in politics today. I wonder if this is a deal that might need to be like the biscuits in this factory, twice baked. Is there not an opportunity here to win out against the extremes?
Tom Harwood, GB News.
What are you going to do about it?
Things should have been done differently, and they certainly are being done differently.
Don't miss it. The Briefing with me, Tom Harwood, 9:30 Monday to Friday on GB News.
On Mark Dolan tonight, we have a simple plan, which is to inform, stimulate and entertain in equal measure. It's all about getting your opinions on the national television airwaves. I love my viewer emails, mark@gbnews.uk. So do join me from 9 p.m. to midnight every Friday, Saturday and Sunday for big guests, big opinions and a big presenter. 6'5", don't you know? See you then on GB News.
Where would you like to go? Just take me to the studio, please, mate. You know where you're going. I've got a show to do. Friday Night Feast on GB News, 7 p.m. And it's like nothing you've ever seen before. We take a different angle on the week's biggest news stories. The viewers and listeners set me some absolutely mad challenges to do. We tried to rehome a rescue dog. And yes, there's some other wacky stuff in there as well. I feel like I could take on the world. Well, that's that. Friday Night Feast with me, Patrick Christie's, every Friday, 7 till 9 p.m. on GB News. Be there.
Join me, Arlene Foster, for The Briefing on GB News. Every Friday at 3 p.m, I'll give you all the latest political news and analysis, and we'll have robust live debate. To make sure that you're caught up on all of the biggest issues of the day, we'll bring on experts in their field. I'll ask the questions that you'd like to ask. We're not afraid to tackle discussions from all perspectives, including yours. Don't forget, The Briefing with me, Arlene Foster, every Friday at 3 p.m. on GB News.
Well, it's Halloween, so let's have a look at some of your brilliant viewer photographs. I think we've got a few pets, which not everyone is approving of, but come on, it's a free country. That's Sharon's beautiful dog, and I'm sure Sharon put that costume on very, very carefully. What a handsome devil. You're so lucky, Sharon. OK, and next up, this is Derek, the Springer Spaniel. He's got worse teeth than Shane McGowan. He needs to floss. And I think we've got some pumpkins as well. Whose pumpkins are these? Dan, lovely pumpkins. Sam, sorry. Sam, we've got your pumpkins. God bless you for that. I think we've got a few more as well, actually, to get through, because I missed a few more. Colin the Clown, well done, Colin. Appropriately scary. Hamish's granddaughter, she looks brilliant with a blowing, what do you call it? The thing you fly around on, broomstick. There you go. Marvellous. Alex's sausage dog with the pumpkin-themed body warmer. Gorgeous eyes. Brilliant stuff. Look, I'll never get through all of the emails in response to tonight's big opinion monologue about GB News. The dark forces that would seek to see this place disappear. Well, look, Eileen says, Mark, I'm now watching GB News almost non-stop. I was a BBC and Sky watcher, not now. Thoroughly enjoy GB News, recommend it to my friends. They are now hooked. Huge success beckons for this channel, and deservedly so. Well, Eileen, thank you for that. Any success we do have is down to one thing and one thing alone, and that is you. So thanks for your support, thanks for your company. Lots more to get through. Just on Halloween, Andrew says, Halloween has been taken over. Whatever happened to Guy Fawkes Night, penny for the guy and all that? I suppose with inflation, that will be £1 for the guy these days. Brilliantly done. What do I always say? The best bit of my show is when you get in touch. Keep those brilliant emails coming, mark@gbnews.uk. We asked you on Twitter whether you thought that Halloween was a nuisance imported from America. 81% say yes, it is an American nuisance. 19% say no. So there you go. Lots more to come. But let's talk now about Elon Musk, because he's just bought Twitter, which is, I think, very good news for free speech. And in fact, he's been on Twitter, his own company, and he's tweeted about it. And he said comedy is now legal on Twitter. So does this mark a sea change in freedom of expression? And with icons like GB News presenter John Cleese saying they could never now make the great comedy that they made back in the day, could it be that comedy, which for years has been stifled by political correctness, will make a comeback? Is it time to make comedy great again? Well, to debate this, I'm delighted to welcome the fantastic comedian and panto star Andy Ford, and my own legendary panellist on tonight's show, comedy actor and TV presenter Christopher Biggins. Andy, welcome to the show.
Hello, lover. Nice to meet you.
Just to let you know, he's behind you.
Very good. Hello, Biggins. How you doing?
Very well. You look great. I love the shirt. Is that for comedy?
Well, of course. Everything I do is for comedy.
I think Andy lost a bet. Andy, listen, it's great to have you on the show.
Listen, I'll give you a game of Dynamos if you want.
Well, I wouldn't say no. But listen, big Andy, has political correctness impacted comedy, do you think, in this country?
Well, I love that expression, cancel culture. Nice couple of buzzwords there. But in comedy, cancelling has been going on forever. You know that when you stand out there and you don't get a laugh on a few gags, the audience can cancel you quite easily. Comedians have lived with it for years. And the benefits nowadays, and there are benefits, if you have a loyal support of people that love your comedy and they'll come and see you, if you're cancelled off one thing, they'll go and see you somewhere else. There are lots of comedians, and naming no names, who now have their own streaming channels when they put their comedy out and they sell tickets for their shows. So years ago, it might have been, if TV says no, that's the end of it. It's changed. TV's important, but there are other ways to get your comedy out there.
Yes, but do you feel like you've got to be careful what jokes you made now, Andy, compared to the gags you were doing 10 or 15 years ago?
Yeah, I suppose so. I mean, the stuff I was doing in the 80s, I mean, 3/4 of that material I wouldn't do now, although it worked at the time. And I only ever deliver stuff that I think's funny. But no, comedy will always be controversial, because if someone doesn't think you're funny, then they'll cancel you in their brain. The strange thing, and Biggins to tell you this about comedy, is if you're a singer and people don't like what you're singing or your voice, they'll say, not my style. If they don't like your comedy, it's like you've broken into their house and wiped the family out with a machete. It's that. You're laughing because it's that extreme. Comedy is that extreme. But I'm not really a satirist. My comedy is quite gentle. I mean, my major platform is doing pantomime, like this lovely man here, and I love my panto, and it suits my style of comedy, because my comedy is, I like to think it's clever, but it's innocent. When you do pantomime, for example, stop me at any point. When you do pantomime, you're playing to kiddies, teenagers, mums and dads, grands and granddads. And your job as a comedian is to make them all laugh at the same time, but not necessarily at the same thing. There might be a trip for the kids, a gag for the parents, a cultural reference for the teenagers, and something cute to make the grands go, oh, ain't he nice?
Well,
so you're
that's
working on all them different levels.
That's what you want. I think it's very sad, Biggins, that the brilliant Andy Ford feels that he couldn't do those jokes from the 80s now. They were funny then. We haven't changed as a species. It's very sad that John Cleese has said he wouldn't get away with half the stuff that he did back in the day, Monty Python, Fawlty Towers, A Fish Called Wanda, that he did in that golden era of comedy. However, is panto an outpost of un-PC humour?
Certainly not.
Glad to hear it.
I mean, honestly, what is interesting, when I was a kid and a young man, we used to laugh hysterically at wonderful comedy. Things like, comedians who went out and really made us laugh. And now you can't do that comedy anymore. It's impossible because you'd have so many people down on you that it would be really... Benny Hill, for instance. Benny Hill was hysterical and he was brilliantly funny and we all tuned into him.
Well, absolutely, Biggins. So many people down on you. Don't knock it till you've tried it. My thanks to the brilliant Andy Ford and the wonderful... See, I'll get cancelled for that. The wonderful Biggins, who's back in the next hour. Andy, come and see us in the studios soon.
Where are you, Andy?
I'd love to do that.
Andy, quickly, where are you this Christmas? I've got to run.
Oh, I am in Cinderella at the Bristol Hippodrome with Craig Revel, and it's going to be a hoot. See you there.
Boom. Brilliant stuff. My thanks to Andy Ford and Biggins. Next up, in my take at 10, I'll be dealing with Prince Harry. See you in 2.
We are GB News.
And we'd like to say thank you
To each and every one of you.
for helping our great nation.
Find its voice.
We're absolutely everywhere.
Across England,
Scotland,
Wales and Northern Ireland.
On TV.
On radio and online.
we're proud to be
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Hello, I'm Michelle Dewberry and you can join me every weekday 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr. Me and my panel will get stuck right into the day's events and I can tell you, in fact, I can warn you, expect some robust debates, some strong opinions and perspectives from both sides of the fence. It's about you at home as well. I love to read out all of your comments, or at least as many as I can. So join me, Michelle Dewberry, Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday. And there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch.
You've been cancelled. Join the club.
Oh, my goodness me. And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilised conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
On the Mark Steyn Show, we cover the stories a lot of people are scared even to mention. The stuff that really matters with some of the world's biggest thinkers.
Now is his opportunity to kind of take the steering wheel of history.
Break away from the flop at 8 o'clock on GB News with the Mark Steyn Show.
Hello, I'm Esther McVeigh.
And I'm Philip Davis.
Whether you're watching or listening on TV, online or on radio, we handpick the latest stories, debates and expert opinions for your weekend. So whether that's politics, news or showbiz, we've got it covered.
Join us every Saturday morning at 10 o'clock on GB News.
Hello, I'm Alastair Stewart, and I'd invite you to join me at noon on Saturdays and Sundays for Alastair Stewart and Friends. I've been in this business for over 40 years. Now, here at GB News, I've never been happier. I get to choose the big stories that really interest me. We hear what you have to say, and you hear what I have to say. I really hope you can join me, noon on Saturdays and Sundays.
I'm Mark Dolan. Join me at 11 on GB News for Headliners, in which I'll be joined by 2 of the UK's top comedians discussing tomorrow's papers. If it's an important story, we'll cover it, but we'll have some fun along the way. Headliners, the late night paper review that won't send you to sleep like the others will. 7 nights a week at 11 p.m. on GB News.
Hi there, it's Stephen and Anne.
At breakfast from 6 a.m, you'll always be caught up with everything you need to know. The latest headlines, opinions and debates.
We'll bring you the good news and the bad, but most of all, we're here for you.
Remember, send in your views and let us know what you would like us to talk about.
That's because we're your news channel. And every morning at 6 a.m, it's breakfast on GB News.
Is Halloween a vulgar Americanism? This from Emily, who says, "Hi, Mark. Halloween is a nonsense with all the cheap costumes, sweets and products. People just get too silly and the costumes are usually cheap material and will go up in flames. Has political correctness killed comedy?" This from Steve. in Walsall. Hi, Steve. Thanks for emailing the programme. Steve says, I'd love to see some of the old shows back on TV, especially Mitchell and Webb, Harry and Paul, David and Matt on Little Britain, and put more repeats back on television. I find the new on-screen warnings amusing that this comedy was indicative of the time. Those are the kinds of messages we see now. Well, I find them deeply irritating. Earlier in the programme, in my big opinion monologue, which you can now catch up on Twitter at GB News, I'm talking about the dark forces that would like to see the back of this channel because they don't want you to have a voice. Well, this from Emily. Forgive me, it's Wendy. And Wendy says, hi, Mark. I listen to you and Dan Wootton every evening. Wouldn't miss you for the world. The best news channel on TV. Don't change, and the woke will never cancel you with all the support you have. Well, Wendy, thank you so much for that. Indicative of so many emails that I'm getting in. Keep those emails coming, mark at gbnews.uk. It's 1 minute past 10, and this is Mark Dolan tonight in the news agenda with my panel. Should companies do more to help employees with the cost of living crisis? Should the media be kinder in the way they portray plus-size people? And can you spend too much money on Christmas decorations? We've also got tomorrow's papers at exactly 10:30. That's the Sunday papers. But after this, my take at 10, and I'll be dealing with Prince Harry. See you in 2.
Good evening, I'm Tatiana Sanchez. This is the latest from the GB newsroom. The UK has accused Russia of making false claims of an epic scale after it blamed the Royal Navy for last month's Nord Stream gas explosions. The Ministry of Defence says Russia is trying to detract from its disastrous handling of the illegal invasion of Ukraine. Meanwhile, Russia has requested a UN Security Council meeting on Monday after claiming its fleet in Crimea was targeted by Ukrainian drones. Kyiv described it as a fictitious attack being used as false pretext to halt Black Sea grain exports. Well, US President Joe Biden has called the halt to the Ukrainian grain deal as outrageous. At least 146 people have been killed and over 100 injured during a stampede in South Korea. The victims were crushed when a huge crowd flooded a central district in the capital, Seoul, while they were celebrating Halloween. Video on social media showed dozens of people being treated for heart failure. Prime Minister Rishi Sunak has tweeted saying, all our thoughts are with those currently responding and all South Koreans at this very distressing time. The government has been urged to launch an urgent investigation following reports that Liz Truss's phone was hacked. The Daily Mail revealed the former Prime Minister's phone was hacked by agents suspected of working for the Russian president. The breach was discovered during the summer Tory leadership campaign when Ms Truss was Foreign Secretary. The downloaded messages reportedly included private exchanges with former Chancellor Kwasi Kwarteng criticising Boris Johnson. They're said to have included up to a year's worth of messages, some top secret, about Ukraine. A whistleblower has told GB News the government isn't acknowledging the true extent of a crisis at an asylum facility. The worker at the Manston military base in Kent claims violence, disease and attempts of self-harm are a daily occurrence. The processing centre is only supposed to hold asylum seekers for up to 24 hours before transferring them to longer-term accommodation, but many have allegedly been living there in unsuitable conditions for weeks. The head of the Royal Navy has ordered an investigation into what he's called abhorrent allegations of sexual assault and harassment in the submarine service. Admiral Sir Ben Key says the behaviour will not be tolerated and is not a true reflection of what service life should be. He says anyone who's found culpable will be held accountable, regardless of their rank or of their status. Thousands of mothers have been demonstrating across the country today demanding reforms to childcare. The Halloween-themed protest called the March of the Mummies is calling for urgent progress on women's rights. They say expensive childcare, along with poor maternity and paternity benefits, are pushing mothers out of the workforce and into poverty. They want the government to increase funding for the sector. And just abroad, protesters have sparked public anger in South and West London.
Yes, other people agree with you, but you're causing an inconvenience to the public and it's not right.
Well, drivers took matters into their own hands, dragging demonstrators off 4 busy roads which were being blocked. The campaign group says over 60 supporters caused traffic delays in a bid to get the government to halt all new oil and gas licences. More than half of them were arrested. TV, online and DAB+ radio. This is GB News. Now it's back to Mark Dolan tonight.
Welcome to Mark Dolan tonight. Big stories, big guests, and always big opinions. In just a moment in my Take at 10, I'll be dealing with Prince Harry and the release of his life story. It promises to be the greatest work of fiction since War and Peace, and just as long and boring. Meanwhile, in America, Joe Biden has another senior moment, seemingly losing count of how many states there are in, wait for it, America.
And by the way, if they do, that means, not a joke, everybody, that's why we were defeated in 2018 when they tried to do it. We went to 54 states, 54 states, 54 states.
54, what, has he invaded some new territories? Amazing. He also gets the name of our new Prime Minister completely wrong as well. Take a listen.
We've got news. Rashid Sunak is now the Prime Minister.
I've got to say, I think Rashid Sunak is doing a great job at number 10. Long may it continue. Well, look, we'll get reaction live from Hollywood, California, and the Queen of US showbiz, royal and political reporting, Kinsey Schofield. Plus, we got Sunday's papers at 10:30. I want to hear from you throughout the programme. Mark at gbnews.uk. And also in the news agenda with my panel, should companies do more to help employees with the cost of living crisis? Should the media be kinder in the way they portray plus-sized people? And can you spend too much money on Christmas decorations? What's your budget? I would have thought it'll be lower this year. So lots to get through tonight, reacting to all of the big stories of the day. Our sports journalist and broadcaster, Aidan McGee, actor, model and columnist, Ashleen Horgan-Wallace, and legendary broadcaster, actor and comedian, Christopher Biggins. Lots to get through, but first, my Take at 10. Oh dear, Britain's least happy millionaire, the Ginger Windsor himself, Prince Harry, is to vomit out his life story in a navel-gazing tome set to be released in January of next year. Like January isn't already a hard enough month for everyone. Freezing cold outside, dark evenings, Christmas hangover, a dying tree, eye-watering credit card bills, and now 500 pages of poor me from this troubled aristocrat. Well, I don't pity Prince Harry, born into a life of extraordinary privilege. I pity the poor reader who's got to navigate their way through this drivel. If only he'd flushed this self-aggrandizing manuscript down one of the alleged 16 toilets in his Montecito mansion in California. Harry needs to bog off. Notwithstanding the anticipated furore that will accompany the release of this book, if we're honest, the damage is already done, with our great Queen having been caused huge discomfort when she was with us for fear of what this book may contain. As she led the country through the coronavirus pandemic, battled her own health issues, and mourned the passing of her beloved Philip, all she could do was speculate as to the contents of this tell-all confessional and worry about the damage it might do to her family, the country, and her great legacy. News of the book came long before the Queen's sad passing, and any distress it may have caused the Queen is unforgivable. Now, I'm the king of free speech, so old Harry is more than welcome to publish his life story. But I'm not having this idea that he's some kind of global leader, some great thinker, pontificating on mental health, inequality, climate change, or the state of modern Britain. I'll take no lectures from this woke eco-hypocrite, navel-gazing about his dreadful life as he flies around the world on a private jet, as Brits at home are struggling with the cost of living crisis, partly brought about, of course, by the green policies of which he is so fond. And, of course, that's when he's not sipping champagne at 38,000 feet with his missus, Yoko Ono. In the end, he sold his soul to Netflix and Spotify and sold his country down the river, partly through unsubstantiated and highly damaging allegations. If he hates the royal family, the monarchy and Britain so much, why does he hang on to those royal titles? Well, I can think of 50 or 100 million reasons why. So he's happy to accept the privileges of royal status and profit from them, whilst perpetually attacking the self-same institution. I personally think King Charles should remove those titles forthwith, given the damage Harry has done and will continue to do. Throw the book at him, Your Majesty. And in terms of the content of this so-called book, surely he's running out of stories to tell, having spilled the beans to Oprah and on countless podcasts. God forbid there should be a sequel to this book. If so, it will be a pamphlet with enough compelling material to fill the back of a first-class stamp. The book has a title. It will be called Spare, in reference to Spare and the Heir, and him being behind William in line to the throne. Well, I've got a better title. I'd like to call it Bore and Peace. That said, I will buy it because I could do with a good doorstop at the moment. And with the cost of fuel these days, it might make for good firewood. This book is a waste of paper, and the once-loved Harry is becoming a waste of space. It's time for this touchy toff to move on. Rather than publish his life story, he should get a life instead. Will you be buying the Harry book? Mark at gbnews.uk. Reacting to that and all of the big stories of the day are my all-star panel. Christopher Biggins, Aisling Horgan-Wallace and Aidan McGee. Now, I'm very keen to hear what they think. So let's start with you, if I can. Aidan, will you be buying the book? Will you be reading it?
Yeah, I think I probably will. I'll have a look at it anyway. I'll certainly follow the coverage because there's bound to be a serialisation in one of the national newspapers or indeed a magazine or online somewhere now. Look, I think he's entitled to have his say on what his life has been like up to now. It will give us some insight. We may not necessarily agree with it, but I do think as somebody who is... And the word spare is important because he's known since birth that he would probably never be the heir apparent to his father. Life's changed for him recently as well. I think it's just important that his perspective is heard. Anyone who doesn't want to read it, well, they don't have to engage with it in any way whatsoever. They have said they want to be financially viable as a family, as a couple. I mean, I think much of it they're doing it the wrong way, especially with Archwell Communications. However, I don't think there's any harm in releasing a book. Everybody else will, who's around him, I suspect. And it's something we expect from people in public life. I don't have a huge problem with it. I may not agree with everything he says, but I'll be reading it for sure.
However, do you think it's a little counterintuitive that he keeps the royal title, he's the Duke of Sussex, whilst inevitably slamming this great institution? You can't have it both ways, can you, Aidan?
No, you can't. But I mean, we're assuming that he's going to slam the institution. I think
he has done so far at every opportunity.
Yeah,
don't you
he
think?
has, but I think he'll also have some good things to say about it as well. You know what? A lot of these books you might actually find, and I know it from covering football down the years. Some players now they release their book when they're 25. And then do another one when they're 35. But you know what? They're really boring. They don't cover any kind of revelations that you're not expecting. You kind of know everything that's there. It could be a huge disappointment.
You are a brilliant sports broadcaster, big QPR fan. I think you write for the QPR magazine.
I was in Birmingham. I was in Birmingham last night watching us lose 2-0. That's how committed I am.
Oh, dear. Yeah. You look a little bruised, I've got to say. What is the best sports or football biography or autobiography that you would recommend?
There haven't been that many recently. Roy Keane's one back in 2002, I think it was must-read, especially as it came within a year of the whole debacle in Saipan when he walked out on the Republic of Ireland side after a row with Mick McCarthy at the World Cup. I also think Tony Adams was very good as well. It was called Addicted. He really opened up about the demons he was suffering during the game. He was this all-encompassing, swashbuckling Arsenal captain, England captain for so many years. He actually told me many years later in an interview that the problem with pulling away from football for Tony Adams was that, and obviously he's topical at the moment because he's been in Strictly, but the problem with pulling away from it, when he was no longer a footballer, he literally forgot who he was at the age of 40. And so the book deals with a lot of that. He wrote it at a good time as well. Roy Keane wasn't quite finished his career, but it was still an excellent read. It really annoyed a lot of people, and some of them he was going up against regularly on a Saturday. Tony Adams waited until, actually, no, it was near the end of his career. He wasn't quite done, but those are the two. I think they're difficult to surpass.
Oh, well, those are good recommendations. I've read Addicted. It's a cracking read. And look, Aisling Hawken-Wallace, that book by Tony Adams is worth reading. He was an England icon and, of course, an Arsenal icon as well. He'd had a long career, battles with the bottle. Whereas, what's Prince Harry done?
I think I will be buying his book because he's done a lot, he's seen a lot, he's been through a lot. I know you're not for it, Mark. With the advertising of the selling of the book, my autobiography was published by the same as his Random House, and they want sensationalism in order to advertise the sales, and they wanted me to be more explicit about my relationship with Mike Tyson, which I didn't do. But they wanted it to be sort of serialised by News of the World off the back of that. So he's stuck between a rock and a hard place, and I can understand him wanting to get his story out, and I don't see anything wrong with that. But I think once it's out of your hands and the publishers are trying to advertise it, you know, he's going to have a lot of backlash because people are going to think it's all down to him, and it's actually really not. It's kind of out of his hands once he's signed that deal, and he's got the advance by now.
Yeah, and probably spent half the money. Well, it seems, Christopher, that Aisling and Aidan are backing Harry's right to tell his own story.
It's only a book, Mark, honestly. It's just a book.
It's just a book. It's too much. Then it'll be a movie, then a podcast. But Christopher, what do you think? Does this young man have right to reply? Am I being a little harsh on him here?
I think you're being very harsh, and I'm furious that it's coming out in January because everybody I know was going to get it for Christmas. Because it was going to come out on Thanksgiving in America, I think. And I think the only thing I'm pleased about that it's been cancelled till January is that he may have changed a few things, because I think there were a few things in the book which would have really upset Her Majesty the late Queen, and I think he is sensitive enough to realise that, and I hope he's done something about it. But yes, of course we want to hear about it. We want to hear all the grisly stories. You know, that terrible time when he had to walk behind his mother's coffin, you know, must have been heartrending for him. And I see that little face now. And there are all sorts of other things. You know, yes, it's a book, and I think we'll enjoy it, and I will certainly buy it, and I will enjoy reading it.
And I will say credit to Harry that he served with distinction in the military, so he's certainly earned his stripes in that department. Well, that's always been my view of Harry, that he was much loved back in the day, but it all went wrong when Yoko Ono turned up in his life. But there you go. Good luck to him. The book's out in January. We've given it plenty of publicity. Now it's time for US News with the Queen of US showbiz, royal and political reporting, Kinsey Schofield, joining us live from Hollywood, California. Hi, Kinsey.
Hi, I'm in my taking care of business shirt as an American, ruining things for you guys. I am Elvis today.
Well, listen, you might not be the king, but you're definitely the queen of US media. Let's talk about Trevor Noah, who's a very talented comedian. He's the host of The Daily Show, which is a sort of topical comedy show, previously presented by Jon Stewart, which I think was the golden era of that programme. He's the outgoing host of this show, and, well, he's launched a bit of a bomb, hasn't he, in our direction here in the UK?
Right. This was completely out of nowhere, where Trevor Noah, it's a clip from social media, and it appears to be kind of a behind-the-scenes conversation he's having with his audience. And he claims that he saw a lot of commentary that was racist towards Rishi Sunak once he became the prime minister, and ripped into the UK. And I mean, I only saw it because a mutual friend of ours went after him on Twitter, and I'd already blocked the account. So I had to like click a link to see what was said. But no, this is called performative activism. You know, really, it's almost like he said something just to generate a reaction, just to look like the good guy. But I've watched both sides of the pond since Rishi Sunak has become your prime minister, and I haven't seen any commentary that was I even considered remotely racist. Specifically, I think he said they're taking over, and if anyone said that, I feel like the translation would be elitist. The translation would be rich people that don't have to, decide heat or eat. But I could not find anything racist about Rishi Sunak becoming your prime minister.
No, Rishi Sunak's colleague, Sajid Javid, the former chancellor of this country, tweeted, "This is simply wrong, this comedy sketch, a narrative catered to his audience at a cost of being completely detached from reality. Britain is the most successful multiracial democracy on earth, and I'm proud of this historic achievement." This guy, he's on his way out of The Daily Show. Why is that gig going away, do you think?
I mean, you said it before. Jon Stewart was the original, and Jon Stewart was an incredible host, and he made a lot of waves. He made a lot of change, and now you actually see Jon Stewart participating in a lot of, real activism and meeting people on both sides of the aisle to get behind some of the things that he campaigns for. I just don't think Trevor Noah has that same star power. And I don't, maybe he's bored, but I just think that this was one of those fights he shouldn't have pursued because it's misinformation. It's not true. And he really did the way he worded it. He made it sound like an entire country was racist when if he indeed meant only some people, which is what he came out and said, can you show me where those people are? Because I did not see that commentary anywhere.
Phrase your last president, fake news, total fake news. Let the audience decide. Let's let my viewers and listeners on DAB Plus make their own judgment about this comedy sketch. Here it is. Take a listen.
Watching the story of Rishi Sunak becoming England's first prime minister of colour, of Indian descent, of all of these things, and then seeing the backlash is one of the more telling, it's just one of the more telling things about how people view the role that they or their people have played in history. And what I mean by that is this. You hear a lot of the people saying, oh, they're taking over. Now the Indians are going to take over Great Britain, and what's next?
There you go. Look, I like, Kinsey, this tweet from Andrew Neil, who used to work here at GB News before we made the difficult decision to let him go. And he had this to say. Trevor Noah, simply made this up. There is no backlash, not even a scintilla of one. Nobody cares, nor is there such a thing as Prime Minister of England. Noah was nowhere near as funny as Jon Stewart, nor as smart. That showed in the ratings. No wonder his show is ending. Ouch.
Wow. What I love about you, Mark, is I've literally seen you tear into Andrew Neil on this show. You when somebody's right, you give them credit for it, even if you have had issues with them in the past. So God bless Mark Dolan.
Absolutely. Forgiveness is my big thing. It's my middle name. Let's talk about the very talented actor Matthew Perry, who played Chandler in Friends, which was one of the biggest sitcoms of all time. Really funny guy. And when he was younger, a great-looking guy as well. Charismatic, rich. He had it all going for him. So what went wrong, Kinsey?
Yeah, he's got a new book coming out called Friends, Lovers, and the Big Terrible Thing. So we're hearing a lot more about his life from Matthew Perry himself, and he's saying, I abused drugs, I abused alcohol, but I know you love him, Mark, but I think this is where we disagree, because in his book, he goes after Keanu Reeves twice, Mark. Keanu Reeves is a saint, God-given to us. And so I have issue with Matthew Perry now. Never before have I had issues. But he goes into the death of River Phoenix, who was one of his friends, and he says, yet we still have Keanu Reeves. Then he goes into the death of Chris Farley and said, yeah, Keanu Reeves continues to walk the earth. Now, he's just trying to be funny, but why be mean-spirited about Keanu Reeves, who's has the greatest reputation in Hollywood ever? But yeah, everybody's eating up this new book. He talks about why he broke up with Julia Roberts. He said he didn't feel good enough for her. He talks about his forever, never-ending crush on Jennifer Aniston. And we're learning a lot about Matthew Perry through his new book, which is coming out, I believe, November 1st.
And Madonna involved in some revealing photos, Kinsey.
Oh, good God, Mark, what have we done to deserve this? Not only did she post topless photos on Instagram, but during a TikTok live. Whoa, there we go. But during a TikTok live, she appears to snort a substance. The host of the talk show was like, "Did you just do poppers?" And she's like, "Oh, no." But a second later says, yeah, wow, everything feels different. Are we seeing Kanye 2.0 with Madonna? Are we watching her spiral? I don't know. But there is some very strange activity coming from the Madonna mansion lately.
Somebody send help for Madge. Let's talk now about a new Disney animated feature, or is it a short film featuring a plus-size character?
Yes, it's 6 minutes, and you're seeing a lot of debate about this online. It's a ballerina that's a little heavy. She's suffering from body dysmorphia, and it's a 6-minute feature that's supposed to help you. I believe it's called Reflection, and it's supposed to help you, the viewer watching it, love themselves for what's inside and not what's outside. And you're seeing a lot of people angry, saying we should not, make somebody heavier. The hero, we should encourage people to be slim and thin. But I'm on the opposite end of that. I think that it's wonderful to have somebody that looks different on TV.
I think that's exactly right. And it's important that cartoons reflect the whole of our society.
Yeah, absolutely. And Meghan McCain said the same thing recently, John McCain's daughter, talking about how she's constantly attacked about her weight, even when she's pregnant. And she said, we need little girls like this. We need heroines like this, because we need to show the world that they not only do they exist, but they're just like us. They're special. They're perfect just the way they are.
Well, let's bring my panel in if we can. Christopher Biggins, Ashleen Horgan-Wallace and Aidan McGee. What do we think about the presentation of plus-size people in film features and animations like this? Ashleen?
I think it's absolutely brilliant. And of course we need to do it. And cartoons need to represent the whole of society, not just an idealised image of what we should look like, according to the drawers, I suppose.
OK, well, I couldn't agree with you more. I think we have unanimity on that one. Easy for me to say. Christopher Biggins, Aidan McGee and Ashleen Horgan-Wallace are with me in just 2 minutes' time for the papers. Listen, the brilliant Kinsey Schofield returns in a week's time. Have a great week, Kinsey. Thanks for filling us in on all the big stories stateside. You're watching Mark Dolan tonight. And next, it's the Sunday Papers. And we've got some corkers for you. See you shortly.
Hello there, it's Eamon Holmes here from Breakfast on GB News. We're not just on your television and your screens, We're
on DAB plus digital radio, so you can listen to your favourite shows on the move.
If you've not yet listened to GB News Radio, it's very simple. We're on your radio player and TuneIn apps, on your smart speaker, phone or tablet, or online at gbnews.uk.
Take us with you wherever you go. GB News Radio.
You never have to miss a moment of the People's Channel.
Hello, I'm Simon Evans. Join me on GB News for Headliners at 11 p.m, where I'll be joined by two of the country's top comedians as we take a look at tomorrow's newspapers tonight. If it's a big story, we'll be covering it, I guarantee, but we'll also have some fun along the way. That's GB News Headliners at 11 p.m. We won't put you to sleep, unlike some of the other paper review shows out there. So join us, 11 p.m, 7 nights a week.
I'm Mark White. As GB News Home and Security Editor, I cover those key issues that are so important to you. Our authorities, our communities doing all they can to combat violent crime. With the public services under unbearable strain, why are we still failing to control our borders? Defence, the first priority of any government, has been continually hollowed out. Can we trust our politicians to protect the armed forces? Join me, Mark White, on GB News.
Join me, Nana Akua, on Friday, Saturday and Sunday afternoons on GB News. Expect fiery debate and passionate discussion as me and my panel tackle some of the biggest topics hitting the headlines. It's a place for everyone's opinion. No one gets cancelled, but no one gets an easy ride.
Oh, she's on it today!
Be ready for conversations that are fierce, frank and, of course, fun. Every Friday, Saturday and Sunday afternoon from 4 p.m. on GB News.
Every morning from 6 o'clock, we'll wake you up with GB News Breakfast with all the stories you didn't know from the night before.
So whether it's serious news, entertainment, or your own views from all over our great nation, we're here to kick off your day with a smile.
And the national media should be reflecting and reporting what's happening here.
You will notice the northwestern accents. Whether you're with us on TV, radio, or online, every morning, it's breakfast from 6 a.m. Hope you can join us.
Every Saturday at 2 o'clock, join me, Darren Grimes, for Real Britain. I'm not afraid to give you a platform and say it how it is.
Come on, make the case. Something like this is very, very important to people.
And we're always up for a laugh on this show.
God, honestly, you'd think there were no problems in the world.
Real Britain, every Saturday on GB News.
On the Mark Steyn Show, we cover the stories a lot of people are scared even to mention. The stuff that really matters with some of the world's biggest thinkers.
Now is his opportunity to kind of take the steering wheel of history.
Break away from the flop at 8 o'clock on GB News with the Mark Steyn Show.
We are GB News, and we'd like to say thank you
To each and every one of you.
for helping our great nation.
Find its voice.
We're absolutely everywhere.
Across England, Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland.
On TV.
On radio and online.
We're proud to be
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Mahmood is not enjoying the debate around Harry and Meghan. Mark, I'm watching your programme. Stop going on about Harry and his wife Meghan. You sound so tediously boring. Harry is free to criticise members of the family he was born in. The late Her Majesty the Queen was his grandmother, King Charles III, his father. Mahmood, thank you so much for that. I love the emails that come in which you agree with me, and I especially love the ones in which you don't. So keep them coming, mark@gbnews.uk. Just for balance, Annie in Norwich says, Mark, I will not be reading the book. If I want fiction, I'll read J.K. Rowling. Ooh. Another burn. If Harry had not been allowed to walk behind his mother's coffin, he would have claimed that his absence affected his mental health. Either decision by his family would have been wrong in Harry's eyes. They couldn't win. I'll get one more before we move on to the papers. Marion says, Mark, I'm not interested in moaning Harry. The ones I feel sorry for are Prince William and Princess Kate, and also his charming father, Charles III. What goes around comes around, so I wonder how his children will judge him. I will not waste my money on that rubbish. Marion, thank you for that. By the way, before the end of the show, we're going to reveal all of your Halloween pictures. Producer Cal is on the case, so we'll get to your Halloween photos before the end of the programme. But it's just gone 10:30. So, as always, on a Friday, Saturday and Sunday, we give you a first look at tomorrow's front pages. And we start with The Observer. And they're leading with the following story. Number 10 alarm at Boris Johnson's plan to attend the climate summit. A row over Prime Minister Rishi Sunak's refusal to attend the COP27 climate summit took an extraordinary twist earlier this evening, as The Observer was informed that his predecessor but one, Boris Johnson, do keep up, is planning to attend the event. Several sources said they'd been told Johnson is intending to go to the crucial meeting of world leaders in Egypt to show his solidarity with the battle against the climate crisis. Also, Qatar lavishes gifts on MPs in pre-World Cup PR drive. That whole story stinks, if you ask me. And I'm sure Aidan McGee agrees. We'll ask him about that shortly. The Sunday Telegraph next. Sunak to stamp out woke policing. PM wants officers back on the front line, focusing on offences that the public actually care about. Police the streets, not the tweets. Praise the Lord. Food prices to surge after Putin chokes grain supply. And Rees-Mogg in migrant warning. Jacob Rees-Mogg has warned that Rishi Sunak cannot ease up on legal migration until the arrival of migrants via illegal routes is under control. The Independent now. Voters' call for election now growing, PM warned. The clamour for a general election is growing among voters as Rishi Sunak's allies warned Tory MPs opposed to his leadership against moves that could bring down the government. So there you go. Does Britain need a general election? We'll come to that shortly. The Sunday Times now. Braverman, the Home Secretary, ignored advice over illegally detained asylum seekers. Suella Braverman has been accused of failing to act on legal advice that the government was illegally detaining thousands of asylum seekers. The move could land taxpayers with an expensive court action. Tory Green Czar attacks Sunak for COP27 snub. And Truss's rider, strong coffee, then Sauvignon Blanc. When Rishi Sunak replaced Liz Truss as Prime Minister, he praised her restlessness. Now the source of her vast political energy can be revealed, an excess of caffeine. Whenever Truss travelled abroad, she demanded huge double espressos to give her energy and a bottle of Sauvignon Blanc to help her wind down. This according to a new biography of Britain's shortest-serving Prime Minister by Harry Cole. At the Daily Star Sunday, world is on veg. Lettuce Liz hacked by Mad Vlad. It's the endive days. Wet lettuce Liz Truss has her phone hacked by Mad Vlad's Rusky spies. This is the tip of the iceberg, say the Daily Star Sunday. Give that man a pay rise, or lady. Sunday Express, Rishi sinks Boris yacht. The £250 million flagship yacht that Boris Johnson hoped would become an emblem of Britain's global power has been axed by the new Prime Minister Rishi Sunak. And the Sunday Mirror, Sunak's 141k from donors. Fossil fuels and rise of Rishi. Donors with fossil fuel links helped fund Rishi Sunak's race for number 10. And those are your front pages. Reacting to all of the big stories of the day and tomorrow's papers are my brilliant panel of Christopher Biggins, Ashleen Horgan-Wallace and Aidan McGee. So let's start, if we can, with the idea, Christopher Biggins, of Boris Johnson turning up at COP27, which is this massive global climate summit, which would be very awkward for the Prime Minister, who has boycotted the event effectively.
And we were talking earlier about this, Aidan, weren't we? We were just saying that, you know, they all go over in their jets, causing even more problems for the environment. And, of course, Boris wants to make himself known again. I mean, you know, he was going to come and try and become the Prime Minister again. So he wants to really up his image, I think, you know. So anything, he'll be going to the first night of my pantomime in Darlington next.
You come from the world of television, theatre and film. You know about big egos.
Yes. Oh.
This is brinkmanship. This is Boris Johnson muscling in and upstaging the Prime Minister.
Of course it is. Of course it is. I mean, that's what he's doing. And it's, you know, if that's what he wants to do, let him go. But let him go in an air balloon or something, you know. Let him not go in a jet.
I still think it's a triumph that Sunak's not going.
I think so. I agree with you.
Because he's sending out a clear message.
Yes.
First of all, that he's focused on our economic problems at home.
Yeah.
And secondly, that he doesn't want to sign up to this ideology around climate change. I don't think anyone disagrees that we should clean up the planet.
Nope.
There's a debate to be had about how to control rising temperatures.
Yeah.
But this narrative that we've essentially got to give up our car, give up the boiler and eat ants for the rest of our lives is for the birds.
Yeah.
And Sunak seems to have bought into that rejection of this ideology.
Well, vegans won't let us eat ants.
Very good point. You've had a few.
I have a few things. I have, and I love every moment of it. But I mean, I think that he's once again. You know, what annoys me about politics nowadays is the fact that there is screaming matches across Westminster. You know, from the Labour to the Conservative to the Lib Dems, everybody's screaming at each other aggressively. And why don't they all get together and try and solve the terrible problems that we're in?
Yeah.
I mean, you know, there's no answer to actually shout and get aggressive and say terrible things about the people who are in that building. They should be in there doing things about what is going on.
Aidan McGee, I think Rishi Sunak has read the room brilliantly here by staying at home.
Yeah, I mean, look, he's in a position where his party and his newly formed government are in a really tricky situation. They've got basically two years to regain some of that support, that groundswell of support that swept Boris Johnson into power back in December 2019. So he's saying the right things, OK? We can see examples on the front pages this evening of where he's saying the right things. He's talking about the end to woke policing and things like that. So we'll see if he actually means it. But this is an action. This is something that he can be judged on. He's not attending COP27. The hypocrisy of this pervades all areas of public life. About 7 or 8 years ago, I did a story on Arsenal Football Club, and they were entwined into and embedded into all the Premier League narrative on climate change, and yet they got a plane from Stansted to Norwich for an away game. They were in the air for about 8.5 minutes.
Yeah.
And they had to issue a statement saying, oh, yes, sorry, we didn't realise that might be problematic for the environment. So this hypocrisy is everywhere. And I think that was one of the points where I kind of started to lose faith in Boris Johnson when he started whispering on about this nonsense. He called it his road to Damascus moment. I mean, really, we all know it was his wife just sort of pecking in the background.
Britain would be the Saudi Arabia of wind.
Yeah, is that what he said?
Yeah. Turns out he was the Saudi Arabia of hot air.
Yeah.
But he can go to COP27 and he can have the photo call and pretend he's still Prime Minister, Aisling. Meanwhile, we've got an actual PM in London fixing the country's problems.
Yeah, so bravo to him. I think that's brilliant. But I just don't understand why they can't do it all via Zoom anyway. Why have we got to take
Good point.
planes all the way to whatever country? Where is it?
Egypt. Yeah.
Exactly that. So, I mean, isn't that counterproductive?
I thought the March for Mummies should have been in Egypt.
Yeah, well, now you're talking. That's what I agree with.
Hasn't Richie also banned the King from going?
Yes, he has.
Yes, which I think...
Liz Truss vetoed it,
yeah.
So they said the King shouldn't go, and now Sunak has upheld that decision.
Yeah, well, I think that's right, too. I think he's going to be good. I think there's some very good things that he's doing already.
Sunak has shown a pair of balls, I think,
yeah,
by
I think
reinstating, for example, Suella Braverman in the Home Office.
Yeah.
Now, that's a headache for him. He knew that. He's not a stupid man.
They're coming for her as well, aren't they?
And they're coming for her, and I don't know whether she can cling on, but this is, again, a statement of intent. It's messaging from Sunak, isn't it? You reappoint Suella Braverman, the message is, I'm serious about tackling illegal migration.
Absolutely.
Yeah, which is going to be, I think, a vote winner in a couple of years' time.
But we'll see. Let's judge him in a year's time, Mark. Let's see what happens there.
It's early days. He's hit the ground running. I think we'll give him that. Qatar lavishes gifts on MPs in pre-World Cup PR drive. This is very much your department's Aidan, the charm offensive. They call this sport washing, don't they? What is sport washing?
Well, it's trying to cleanse your reputation through the prism of sport. I mean, it's not the first time it's happened. I mean, we look back to the Abu Dhabi takeover of Manchester City in 2008. Now, they had a reputational problem. Like a lot of the Emirate states, they weren't popular, even though a lot of Western people like to holiday or use them as holiday destinations. I went there myself in 2008. I'll confess, full disclosure here. However...
Still got the tan.
Yeah. Yeah, I have. It was a good drop. So, yeah, I mean, look, it's trying to rinse the reputation of something that maybe where the funds have been gleaned in a sinister manner. So, for example, nobody really thinks now and nobody thought about it at the time. I was in Manchester when that story broke about the Manchester City's takeover, and Newcastle last year with Saudi. At the time, it was interesting the contrast of the stories, because they're basically one and the same thing. It was the same. The source of the money was pretty much the same. It was all oil. It was all dubiously amassed. And yet the coverage back then was a celebration of Manchester City being taken over. And yet Newcastle's was very much more negative, had a much more negative overtone around it. As regards Qatar...
And that was double standards, wasn't it?
Yeah, look, there was a 12 years difference. So, yeah, we do... I mean, there wasn't the outrage when Qatar got the World Cup in 2010 that there would be right now.
When Roman Abramovich bought Chelsea.
Absolutely, 2003. So, but Qatar, we can't overstate their influence in British society. They own Chelsea Barracks, they own Harrods, they own the Shard, they own Canary Wharf, they own 20% of Sainsbury's, they own 6% of Barclays.
And also, can I just say, full disclosure, they can buy me if they want to.
You're available.
I'm for the right price.
Yeah.
I'll go.
All right, yeah, all right. We'll
like Beckham.
Yeah, too right, exactly.
So that's what this is about. Even that's just this country. Consider the influence Qatar have in France. They bought PSG in 2011, one of their biggest football club.
Yeah.
The Deutsche Bahn in a company in Germany. They've got a massive contract for infrastructure projects in Qatar. So there's financial interest everywhere. Bayern Munich go and do warm weather training in the middle of winter in Qatar. So they've got their tentacles, a bit like Russia. They've got their tentacles into every area of public life in multiple countries.
And listen, I understand the realpolitik, as they call it. You know, I live in the real world. You've got to do business with countries like Saudi Arabia. We sell arms to Saudi Arabia. If we don't, they'll buy them from someone else. It's British jobs. It's GDP. Similarly, we do business with Qatar and other regimes. And, hey, we buy energy from Vladimir Putin. Not much, but still a bit.
Yeah, we do.
But what's unacceptable is that the World Cup tournament was awarded to Qatar all those years ago. That's the scandal. Because that's not realpolitik. That's not about doing business.
And that was money.
That was money and corruption, surely.
Absolutely.
Let me tell you, I was there for the News of the World. I was writing in Qatar around about the time. I was writing a column for Sam Allardyce. My boss said to me, listen, one column for 1 week is a bit of a jolly aid and you stay in a nice hotel. Go down to the local local organising committee and find out exactly what the Qatar local organising committee want to achieve for the World Cup. They're not going to win it, but it'd be nice to get some artwork, some drawings. We can put it in the paper and showcase what a World Cup in Qatar would look like. I went to see them. They're mostly European staff, and they said, look, we're just familiarising ourselves with the process. We've no hope of winning. 5 months later, Mark, there they are in possession of a World Cup in 2022. We've not had one here since 1966.
I smell a rat. Did you bring down the News of the World?
I didn't bring it down.
Was it your fault?
No, it wasn't. I was one of the last remaining staff. I was extremely proud to work there as well, I must say.
I caught you checking the voicemail on my phone earlier. So. All habits die hard.
I was just wondering why you're blocking my calls, that was all.
I missed that paper, I have to say.
I missed the News of the World.
Yeah,
It packed a punch, didn't it?
Absolutely.
Yes,
and I loved, it was the first, I used to take the Times, Sunday Times and the News of the World, and it was a wonderful combination.
Did you read the News of the World inside your copy of the Times?
Of course.
It was, and the Kiss and Tell story. Golden
wonderful.
era of Fleet Street.
I was on the last ever back page.
Well, listen, we're going to hear from Ashleen in just a moment because we're going to talk about quite a few more stories from the papers, including should companies actually step up and help employees with the cost of living crisis. Lots of private businesses are giving people inflation-busting pay rises. Should more do the same? See you in 2.
Weekday afternoons on GB News, we've got the whole of the UK covered. From 12 to 3, it's GB News Day with me, Mark Longhurst.
And me, Gloria Di Piero. You'll get the very latest on everything that's been going on across our great nation.
And from 3 till 6, watch out for GB News Live with me, Patrick Christys. I'm not here to mess around. With all the biggest topics and guests, you will always be up to date. GB News Day and GB News Live from 12 p.m.
Only on GB News.
The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
My name is Andrew Doyle. Join me every Sunday evening at 7 p.m. for Free Speech Nation. This is a show where we address current affairs and news stories of the week with the help of 2 wonderful comedian panellists. I brought in comics because I want to give it a lighter edge, and also they work for less. See you there.
My name's Tom Harwood, and join me 9:30 a.m. every weekday for The Briefing, your one-stop shop for everything you need to know about what's going on in politics today. I wonder if this is a deal that might need to be like the biscuits in this factory, twice baked. Is there not an opportunity here to win out against the extremes?
Tom Harwood, GB News.
What are you going to do about it?
Things should have been done differently, and they certainly are being done differently.
Don't miss it. The Briefing with me, Tom Harwood, 9:30 Monday to Friday on GB News.
On Mark Dolan tonight, we have a simple plan, which is to inform, stimulate and entertain in equal measure. It's all about getting your opinions on the national television airwaves. I love my viewer emails, mark@gbnews.uk. So do join me from 9 p.m. to midnight every Friday, Saturday and Sunday for big guests, big opinions and a big presenter. 6'5", don't you know? See you then on GB News.
Where would you like to go?
Just take me to the studio, please, Matt. You know where you're going. I've got a show to do. Friday Night Feast on GB News, 7 p.m. And it's like nothing you've ever seen before. We take a different angle on the week's biggest news stories. The viewers and listeners set me some absolutely mad challenges to do. We tried to rehome a rescue dog. And yes, there's some other wacky stuff in there as well. I feel like I could take on the world. Well, that's that. Friday Night Feast with me, Patrick Christys, every Friday, 7 till 9 p.m. on GB News. Be there.
Join me, Arlene Foster, for The Briefing on GB News. Every Friday at 3 p.m, I'll give you all the latest political news and analysis, and we'll have robust live debate. To make sure that you're caught up on all of the biggest issues of the day, we'll bring on experts in their field. I'll ask the questions that you'd like to ask. We're not afraid to tackle discussions from all perspectives, including yours. Don't forget, The Briefing with me, Arlene Foster, every Friday at 3 p.m. on GB News.
I'm delighted to say those Halloween photos have been flooding in. Thank you so much for sending them in. This is Steve's squash instead of pumpkin. It does the job.
That's rather good.
That's very impressive. I like the little candle inside as well.
Yeah.
You can use LED lights now, which is a much safer
that's a good
solution.
idea,
Yeah,
yes.
that's what we do with the kids.
I just used to have the big white sheet from the airing cupboard. Used to go and terrorising my younger brother Liam, going, ooh.
Is that right?
Yeah, he
that
loved
could
it.
Can I just say that outfit could be misconstrued? So be careful where you go with that one. How about Hamish's grandson? Oh, what a fine lad! Bravo! A little monster, quite literally. How about Paul, who sent in Ruby the dog in a very smart little outfit next to a pumpkin, and the dog only slightly bigger than the pumpkin. We love Ruby, and this is Douglas, Anna's dog.
Oh, there's you. That's me.
It's Aidan McGee. There you go. It's a very patient Douglas dressed as a ghost by Anna. I love it. Thank you, Anna. And James and his partner.
Oh, my
Terrifying.
goodness.
Now, is that psoriasis or eczema?
It's one of my exes.
There you go. Nightmare on Elm Street. Thank you for your...
You can get tablets for that.
Just a bit. We can recommend a cream. Wonderful photos. Thank you so much for sending them in, and I wish we had time for more. Now, reacting to the big stories of the day, sports journalist and broadcaster Aidan McGee, actor and TV presenter, showbiz legend Christopher Biggins, and the brilliant model, columnist and author Aisling Horgan-Wallace. So good news for Aldi workers. They're getting their third pay rise of the year. That's right, their third pay rise of the year. Lots of companies are increasing people's salary to help with inflation. So is it time for private companies to step up? Does Britain need a pay rise? And should the private sector do the lifting? Aisling.
Well, I did think about this question, and I think if they can afford to, then why not?
Yeah.
I think society should, it takes a village to raise a child. So in the same content, we should all help each other if we can afford to. For example, for my tenants, I can't afford to do much with the way things are at the moment, but I'm going to do a little package and take it round to them so they can save money on electric bills and things like that. So just throw in different things in there that's going to help with their bills. And
Well, like advice and that kind of thing.
more like advice, so that throw some advice in there.
Put a jumper on.
No, you can get like these sheets. You buy these sheets.
Beanie hats, hot water bottle.
There. I'm going to write it down, put it in a
brandy.
box, give it to them. No, you can get sheets that you can put behind radiators that insulate the heat more, and just
What about
just
those
stuff like
snakes?
that. Yeah, those.
Yeah.
So,
But actually,
and
it
that's
does
just
make a
me
difference.
doing my little bit.
You know what, Aisling, it
that I
does
can
make a
afford
difference.
to do.
Last year, it was a cold winter, and we just put a blocker where the front door is.
Well,
Because
exactly.
there's a little bit of
this is
cold
the
air
thing.
coming through the gap, and it made a huge difference to block that up.
And so my point is,
I
I'm
used a
gonna
long
do...
snake. I took out my long snake.
Draft excluder.
Oh, did you? You'll have to show me that. Send me pictures. That's
wide
just me,
angle.
for example, doing what I can. So why can't these massive companies that have got, a massive amount of money do the same for
Well,
their
I
employees?
think that the people that work for Aldi will remember that they've been looked after and that they will be loyal. And my experience of the world of business is that if you don't have a high turnover of staff, you're going to have a much better business model. And there will be loyalty as a result of this generosity.
And also the huge profits that some of these companies make, like supermarkets, surely that would be a good thing to do, is to give back to the employees.
I should add as well that in the same way that politicians and kings and queens can have a great war, these supermarkets had a really good pandemic.
Yeah.
The demand was insatiable. The staff were invaluable. I don't see any harm in giving a bit back. They were busy throughout. I mean, we relied on them. They provided a good service, and if they can give something to the staff, I don't see a problem with that. Yes, it can have a residual damage further down the line in terms of inflation, but let's not worry about that too much.
No, also, isn't it refreshing, Aisling, to hear that private businesses can do the heavy lifting rather than always the government? Because what is the government? What is the state? It's you and me, and it's our taxpayers' cash.
But yeah, I do believe that there is a fund for that. We already pay into it, so it is ultimately the government's, responsibility. But at the same time, why don't, like I said before, it takes a village to raise one child. So
you're right.
all of us should be helping each other.
We should all pay more tax, though, if you can, to help others. I mean, it's ridiculous to keep on
But
about...
haven't we maxed out now, Biggins?
I don't think we have at all. I think there are a lot of people out there who are really, really rich who don't pay the tax they should be paying.
Yeah. My accountant said that when people earn above £300,000, that's when he can actually save the money.
Yeah.
Anything below that, there's not much you can do.
No, and he's absolutely right, your accountant.
Yeah, well, he is, yeah.
Aldi's an interesting one as well. It's a bit like going to Co-op in the 80s when you had boxes all over the place. It's a bit disorganised, a bit dishevelled, but the produce, the actual, the fruit and veg, the baking stuff is pretty good.
Yeah, and also where else can you buy a fishing rod, a hammer drill and
Yeah.
a fleece waistcoat?
Argos?
Yeah, well, that's a good point. But I do love that adventurous central aisle. Let's talk about Christmas, shall we? Too soon? Swarovski are not just selling diamonds this year, they're selling Christmas crackers for a cracking 42 quid. So...
Each cracker?
Well, I think it's a box of 8.
Oh, that's not bad.
Yeah, but the question is, are we spending too much money on Christmas? Do you have a budget for Christmas? Biggins?
No, I love Christmas. You see, we were talking earlier about
Halloween.
Halloween, you know, I don't like Halloween. I'm bored with Halloween.
Vulgar.
I don't want people coming knocking on my door and asking me sweeties. But Christmas is different. Christmas, yes, let's spend a fortune. I really love it. It's a wonderful time. And I think, for instance, to give you an example, I was very worried about my pantomime this year because I thought no one's going to come.
Yeah.
We are up so much money on our pantomime in Darlington. It's fantastic.
So, Darlington?
Yeah, but people want to come and
what's the show?
It is Peter Pan, I'm playing Mrs. Smee. But the thing is, people want to be entertained. People want to have a laugh.
And we have been entertained for the last 2 hours. Can I thank Christopher Biggins, Aisling Horgan-Wallace, the brilliant Aidan McGee, and please come back and see us soon. Thank you for your company and also your very generous and amazing emails. Don't worry, GB News isn't going anywhere.
We are GB News.
And we'd like to say thank you
To each and every one of you.
for helping our great nation.
Find its voice.
We're absolutely everywhere.
Across England, Scotland,
Wales and Northern Ireland.
On TV.
on radio,
And online.
we're proud to be
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Hello, I'm Michelle Dewberry and you can join me every weekday 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr. Me and my panel will get stuck right into the day's events and I can tell you, in fact, I can warn you, expect some robust debates, some strong opinions and perspectives from both sides of the fence. It's about you at home as well. I love to read out all of your comments, or at least as many as I can. So join me, Michelle Dewberry, Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday. And there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch.
You've been cancelled. Join the club.
Oh, my goodness me. And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilised conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
On the Mark Stein Show, we cover the stories a lot of people are scared even to mention. The stuff that really matters with some of the world's biggest thinkers.
Now is his opportunity to kind of take the steering wheel of history.
Break away from the flock at 8 o'clock on GB News with the Mark Stein Show.
Hello, I'm Esther McVeigh.
And I'm Philip Davis.
Whether you're watching or listening on TV, online or on radio, we handpick the latest stories, debates and expert opinions for your weekend. So whether that's politics, news or showbiz, we've got it covered.
Join us every Saturday